Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mr. Jobs English podcast, where learning English is simple, natural, and connected to real life. My name is Mia.
And I'm James. We're so happy you're here with us today. If you want to improve your English, learn vocabulary connected to real jobs, and have fun at the same time, you're in the right place.
Yes, it really is. I think a lot of our listeners will love this episode because today we're starting a new series about jobs and professions. But before we begin, we want to ask you for a tiny favor. If you enjoy this podcast, please follow or subscribe, leave a like, and share this episode with someone who is learning English. It really helps our podcast grow, and it motivates us to create more episodes for you.
Yes, it makes a big difference. Thank you so much for your support, and tell us what job you would like us to talk about next. Now, Mia, are you ready for today's job? I'm excited for this one.
Oh, I'm very ready. Today's job is special because many people don't know the correct word in English for this profession. Today, we're talking about the cabinet maker.
The cabinet maker. Such an interesting profession, and many English learners only know the word carpenter, right?
Yes, exactly. And this is important. In Canada and the United States, the word carpenter is the most common and general word. A carpenter works with wood, usually in construction, like building houses, stairs, roofs, or framing.
But a cabinet maker is more specific. A cabinet maker usually makes furniture, cabinets, and high-quality wood pieces. They work with more detail, more precision, and often with finer materials.
That's right. And there is also the term finish carpenter. A finish carpenter installs detailed woodwork in houses like baseboards, trim, doors, and decorative wood finishing. They don't usually build furniture like a cabinet maker does, but they do more delicate work than a general carpenter.
So, just to make it very clear for our listeners, let's quickly review these three terms in English. Carpenter, general woodworker, especially in construction. Example, my uncle is a carpenter. He builds houses. Cabinet maker, makes furniture and cabinets with detailed, fine woodwork. Example, my neighbor is a cabinet maker. He makes beautiful wooden tables. Finish carpenter, specializes in final details inside houses. Example, a finish carpenter installed the new doors in our home.
That's a great start. And listeners, don't worry, we will repeat these words naturally during our conversation so you can hear and learn them in context. Today's vocabulary will be very useful even if you are not a cabinet maker because many people love furniture, DIY, home design, or woodworking.
Exactly. And we promise to keep the conversation natural, friendly, and fun. But of course, you will learn a lot today. So Mia, I'm curious, do you know anyone who is a cabinet maker?
Yes, actually, I do. My grandfather was a cabinet maker. He worked with wood for more than 40 years. When I was a kid, I used to visit his workshop. I remember the smell of wood, the sound of tools, and all the furniture he made. It was like magic for me.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. A workshop, also called a wood shop, can feel like a very creative place, right? I imagine shelves with tools, pieces of wood everywhere, and maybe some unfinished furniture in progress.
Yes, exactly like that. And my grandfather always said that wood has personality. He said, if you respect the wood will respect you.
Wow, that's poetic and very true, I believe. Wood is a natural material with variations, texture, and imperfections. A cabinet maker needs patience, skills, and creativity.
Definitely. And today we'll talk about what a cabinet maker does, their daily tasks, tools, useful vocabulary, and even a simple story to help you remember the new words.
Great. To begin, let's answer a simple question for our listeners. What does a cabinet maker do?
A cabinet maker designs, builds, and repairs wooden furniture. This includes cabinets, tables, chairs, desks, shelves, and sometimes custom wood pieces for kitchens or offices.
Yes, and the key word here is custom. Custom means made specially for a specific customer, not mass-produced in a factory.
For example, this table is custom made for my dining room. It means the table was made specifically for that person's size and style.
Now, here's another important word, workshop or wood shop. It's the place where a cabinet maker works. It usually has machines, tools, wood, and space to work. Example, the cabinet maker is in his workshop building a new cabinet.
And a word that goes well with workshop is workbench. A workbench is a special table where the cabinet maker works, measures wood, cuts, sands, and assembles pieces.
Let's give an example with workbench. He placed the wooden board on the workbench before cutting it.
Great. Now, let's talk about the materials cabinet makers use. The most obvious one is wood, but there are different types of wood. Some common types are oak, maple, pine, walnut, and cherry.
Yes, and these woods have different qualities. For example, oak is strong and heavy, pine is lighter and cheaper, and walnut is dark and elegant. Example sentences. My kitchen cabinets are made of oak. This shelf is pine. It's light and easy to move. He made a beautiful walnut coffee table.
Now let's introduce a few verbs that are essential for cabinet making. These are very useful for English learners too. Measure, cut, sand, glue, assemble, and polish.
Yes, let's explain them with short examples. Measure, to find the size or length of something. The cabinet maker measured the wood carefully. Cut, to divide something into pieces using a tool. He cut the board with a saw. Sand, to make wood smooth using sandpaper. She sanded the table to make it smooth. Glue, to attach things using glue. He glued the pieces together. Assemble, to put parts together to make something. They assembled the chair in 20 minutes. Polish, to make something shiny and smooth. He polished the wood to give it a nice finish.
Great vocabulary. Now, I want to ask you, James, if you were not doing this podcast, could you see yourself working with wood?
Actually, yes. I love working with my hands. I'm not a professional, of course, but sometimes I do small DIY projects at home. Do you know what DIY means?
Oh, yes, that's an important phrase. DIY stands for do it yourself. It refers to making or fixing things without hiring a professional. For example, I built this shelf as a DIY project.
Exactly. Many people in the US and Canada enjoy DIY projects, especially on weekends. We call these people hobby woodworkers or DIYers.
I love that word, DIYers. It sounds fun. I personally love the idea of building furniture, but I don't think I'm very talented with tools. If I used a saw, I think I would need a lot of supervision.
Don't worry, everyone starts as a beginner. But yes, some tools are dangerous if not used correctly, like the table saw, the circular saw, or the router. Cabinet makers receive safety training before using these machines.
Safety is very important in a workshop. Words like safety goggles to protect your eyes, gloves, and ear protection are part of daily routine for cabinet makers.
Very true. And here's a tip for listeners. If you ever visit a workshop or a hardware store in an English-speaking country, these words are very useful to know.
Now, I think we've introduced enough vocabulary to start a more natural conversation about a cabinet maker's day. Let's imagine a typical day in the life of a cabinet maker.
Sure, let's do a mini story to help listeners visualize the profession.
Great idea. Let's imagine a typical day in the life of a cabinet maker. And to make it more fun, let's add a realistic little twist to his day. Nothing too crazy, just something you can picture happening in real life.
All right, listeners, meet Daniel. Daniel is a cabinet maker. He has his own small workshop and he loves working with wood. He enjoys creating custom furniture for his clients. But today, his day starts in a slightly unexpected way.
It's 7:30 in the morning. Daniel arrives at his workshop with a hot coffee in his hand. He opens the door, turns on the lights, and walks to his workbench. He's ready to start a new project, a custom-made dining table for a client.
Yes, but before he even begins, something small but funny happens. As he puts his coffee on the workbench, he accidentally places it on a piece of wood that is not flat. The cup slowly slides and falls to the floor.
Poor Daniel. Not the best start to the day. And if you're listening, here's a useful expression. Not the best start to the day means something went wrong early, but it's not serious. It's a light, friendly expression.
Exactly. So now Daniel has no coffee and a small mess to clean up. He laughs at himself and says, "Well, that's okay. Let's try again." He cleans it, gets a new cup, and then he's finally ready to begin his work.
The first step of his project is to measure the wood. He uses his tape measure to check the length and width of each wooden board. He wants everything to be precise. Remember the verb measure. It means to find the size.
But then his pencil disappears. You know that famous thing that happens to people who work with tools? The pencil is always missing?
Oh, yes. Every woodworker I know loses their pencil at least 5 times a day.
Same with Daniel. He checks his pockets. Not there. He checks the workbench. Not there. He even checks under a piece of wood. Finally, he finds the pencil behind his ear. It was there the whole time.
Classic. Listeners, that's a funny but realistic moment, and there's a nice expression for this. It was right under his nose. This means something was very close, but he didn't see it.
So Daniel measures the wood, marks the lines with his pencil, and then uses a saw to cut the pieces. After that, he sands the edges to make them smooth. He works carefully and calmly because cabinet making requires patience.
And then, just when everything is going perfectly, his friend Mark comes into the workshop. Mark is a friendly neighbor who always has questions. He loves DIY, but he is not very good at it.
Mark walks in and says, "Hey, Daniel, I tried to build a shelf yesterday, but I think something went wrong." Daniel looks at the shelf that Mark is carrying and, well, the shelf is not straight. It's leaning to one side.
Daniel tries to be polite, but he can't hide his surprise. He says, Mark, did you use a level? A level is a tool that tells you if something is straight or not.
Mark says, "A level? No, I just used my eyes."
Daniel smiles and answers, Well, your eyes are not very level today.
That's a gentle and friendly joke. It's not mean, just playful. Daniel helped his friend fix the shelf. He uses a level, a drill, and a few screws. In just a few minutes, the shelf is straight and safe.
And there's a nice piece of vocabulary here. Shelf. A shelf is a flat piece of wood on a wall used to hold items, and straight means not leaning. For example, the shelf is straight now.
After helping Mark, Daniel finally returns to his project. He assembles the pieces of wood to build the dining table. Then he uses clamps to hold the wood together while the glue dries. Remember, clamps keep wood in place.
And while the glue dries, Daniel takes a short break. He looks at the table and smiles, feeling proud. Even though his day started with spilled coffee, a missing pencil, and a crooked shelf, he still had a good morning.
That's a great example of how small interruptions can happen in a workshop, but they can also add humor to the day. And it's a good reminder that cabinet makers need not only skill, but also patience and a good attitude.
Before we continue, let's quickly review a few useful words from the story so they stay fresh in your mind. I'll say the word, and Mia will give a short, simple example. Ready? Ready. James. Measure. He measured the wood before cutting it. James. Workbench. The tools are on the workbench. James. Clamp. Use clamps to hold the wood together. James. Level. A level helps you check if something is straight. James. Shelf. The shelf is on the wall.
Great. These words will appear again naturally in our conversation, so you'll hear them more as we continue.
Yes, and we still have much more to talk about, including more tools, useful phrases, and another moment from Daniel's day that I think many people will relate to, especially if they work with clients.
Now, let's go back to Daniel. After his short break, he gets ready for the next part of his day. And this part is something many cabinet makers know very well: meeting with a client. Sometimes it's easy and smooth, and sometimes, well, it can be a little interesting.
Yes, the client today is Mrs. Thompson. She arrives at the workshop to talk about the dining table Daniel is building for her. She has a big smile, she's very kind, but she brings new ideas. And when clients bring new ideas, things can change quickly.
She walks in and says, "Hello, Daniel. I was thinking, maybe the table could be a little bigger?" Daniel smiles politely and says, "Of course. How much bigger were you thinking?" She replies, just a tiny bit. Maybe 30 centimeters longer?" Daniel nods, but 30 centimeters is not a tiny change.
Yes, that's a common client moment. And here's a useful expression: a tiny bit. People say it when they want something small, but sometimes it's not small at all.
Exactly. Daniel stays calm. He says, "No problem, we can adjust the design." Then Mrs. Thompson looks around the workshop and sees a beautiful walnut coffee table that Daniel made for another client. Her eyes shine and she says, "Oh, can my dining table be this color too?"
Now, Daniel knows walnut wood is more expensive, so he gently explains, "This wood is walnut. It's darker and more elegant, but it costs more than oak." Mrs. Thompson thinks for 3 seconds and says, "Yes, walnut is perfect. Let's do walnut."
The classic client upgrade. And here are 2 useful phrases for our listeners. Costs more means it has a higher price. And let's do walnut, a natural way to confirm a choice.
So now Daniel's project changed. The table is bigger and the wood is different, but he stays positive. He takes notes and shows Mrs. Thompson a few wood samples so she can see the difference. Samples are small pieces that show the material.
Example. The client looked at wood samples before choosing a color. Mrs. Thompson touches the samples and says, "This walnut feels wonderful. I love the texture." Texture means how a surface feels: smooth, rough, soft, etc.
After making the decisions, Mrs. Thompson leaves the workshop feeling happy and excited. Daniel, however, now has extra work, but he still smiles because he wants the table to be perfect.
And here's a phrase I love. He wants the table to be perfect. It shows dedication and pride in his work. Good cabinet makers care about quality.
Now, let's add one more small, funny moment. After the client leaves, Daniel decides to start preparing the new wood for the table. He goes to his storage area to get the walnut boards. He picks them up, carries them to the workbench, and then something happens.
Oh, I love this part. Tell them.
Daniel places the boards on the workbench, but he doesn't notice that his new cup of coffee, the replacement coffee, is right on the edge. As he moves the wood, the coffee cup starts to wobble and falls again.
The second coffee of the day gone.
Poor Daniel. But he laughs and says, okay, I think today the wood needs coffee more than I do. That's a very cute, light joke. It shows he doesn't get upset easily.
And this moment teaches an important point. Humor can make daily mistakes easier. Even small accidents can be funny if we stay calm.
Before we continue with the next part of Daniel's day, let's review a few useful expressions and new vocabulary from this part. I'll say the word or expression, and James will give an example. A tiny bit.
Can you move the chair a tiny bit to the left?
A samples.
She looked at paint samples before choosing a color.
Texture.
The wood has a smooth texture.
Costs more.
Walnut costs more than oak.
Upgrade.
The client upgraded to a better material.
Nice and simple. These expressions are common in real conversations in English-speaking countries.
Yes, and they're useful not only for cabinet makers, but also for daily life, shopping, or talking about products and quality.
All right, let's go back to our conversation and talk about some tools that cabinet makers use. We already talked about basic tools, but now it's time for some power tools. These are electric or battery-powered tools that make work faster and more precise.
Yes, and knowing the names of power tools in English is very useful, especially if you watch tutorials or visit hardware stores in English-speaking countries. Let's go through some of the most common ones.
The first one is a table saw. A table saw is a large saw fixed to a table. It's used to cut long or wide pieces of wood in straight lines. Example, he used the table saw to cut the wood into long pieces.
Another essential tool is the circular saw. It's a handheld power saw with a round blade. It's great for cutting wood quickly. Example, he used a circular saw to cut the board outside.
Then we have a jigsaw. A jigsaw is used to cut shapes or curves in wood. Example, she used a jigsaw to cut a curved design.
A very important tool in cabinet making is the router. A router is used to shape edges and create decorative details in wood. Example, he used a router to make a decorative edge on the table.
And there's the power drill, which is extremely common. You can use it to make holes or drive screws. Example, he used a power drill to attach the legs to the table.
We should also mention the sander, an electric tool that sands wood to make it smooth. A belt sander is a stronger version for intense sanding. Example, he used an electric sander to make the surface smooth.
Another great tool is the nail gun, which shoots nails quickly into wood. It saves a lot of time compared to a hammer. Example, he used a nail gun to attach the panels.
And one more, the air compressor, often used with tools like a nail gun. It provides air pressure to operate them. Example, the air compressor was running while he worked.
These tools make a cabinet maker's work faster, safer, and more precise. And of course, safety equipment is essential too. Items like safety goggles, gloves, dust mask, hearing protection, and apron are part of daily life in a workshop.
Exactly. Now, before we end today's episode, let's finish Daniel's short story in a simple way.
After fixing Mark's shelf, talking to his client, and preparing the wood, Daniel finally starts shaping the table. He uses his power tools, focuses on the details, and by the end of the afternoon, the table is starting to look beautiful.
Even though his day began with 2 coffee accidents, a missing pencil, and a client tiny change that wasn't tiny, he still feels proud and happy. That's the spirit of a cabinet maker. Patience, craftsmanship, and love for the work.
Well said. Now, before we close today's episode, let's do a short and quick recap of the new words. We won't repeat all, just the key power tools.
Table saw, circular saw, jigsaw, router, power drill, sander, nail gun, air compressor.
If you can remember these, you already sound more like a native speaker when talking about woodworking.
And that brings us to the end of this episode.
If you enjoyed learning English with us today and you like this style of podcast, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
Yes, and please leave a like and write in the comments which profession you want us to talk about next. Your suggestions help us choose the next job for the podcast.
Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you learned something useful today.
Take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Mr. Jobs English Podcast.